You're my life, Adrian. All of you. Everything I do is for this family. She studied his face for a moment, as if searching for a sign. Compassion, regret, love. Maybe she found it, or maybe she didn't. Then come home safe, Adrian said quietly, turning away before her voice could betray her emotion. 5 days later, Maxwell watched from the tarmac as St. Louis's city skyline blurred through rain-soaked glass. The C-130 transport rumbled beneath him. He tried not to think of Adrian's empty side of the bed, or the sound of Brooklyn's laughter echoing down their hallway. He focused instead on mission parameters, encrypted briefings, tactical maps. Still, one image kept breaking through the tactical haze. Adrian, eyes steely, lips pressed thin, arms crossed in the doorframe. He replayed the list of recent anomalies in his mind. The gym bag that wasn't hers, boutique receipts, a trace of expensive men's cologne lingering on their bathroom towels, all subtle, altogether screaming for his attention. Winters, a young specialist called as the plane hit cruising altitude. These new communications encryptions came in for you, Priority Alpha. Max took the sealed envelope, nodding his thanks. He barely heard the engines as he opened it and read the terse message. Extraction target ETA advanced. Go hot within 72 hours. Minimal support. Execute at discretion. He slid the message away and stared out into the gray beyond the window. If Adrian was involved in anything dangerous, he'd find out. If someone had targeted his family, if she just moved on, he'd handle it. He always did. But the ache in his chest wouldn't go away, a hollow place as wide and silent as the sky outside. Back home, Adrian stood alone at the kitchen sink, watching the storm lash the windows of their beautiful empty house. She listened to the quiet, so different from the noise of her thoughts, her doubts, her secret hopes that Max would call just to say he missed her. Instead, she picked up her phone, checking for messages from someone whose name she'd saved under a false pretense. A friend from yoga, she told Max. Just a friend. The message flashed on her phone. Can't stop thinking about you. Can we meet again? Adrian's breath caught in her throat. She typed quickly. Not tonight. When Max is gone. You know the rule. She hit send and set the phone down. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from longing for something different in her life. Something softer, perhaps, or maybe just less lonely. Thunder rolled over the suburbs of St. Louis as Adrian wiped away a single tear. Whatever tomorrow would bring, she knew she couldn't turn back. We'll talk when I get back. Adrian looked away first. We always do, and nothing ever changes. Later that night, Max slipped into his children's rooms. Noah was asleep, his 6'2" frame barely fitting the bed he'd had since childhood, lacrosse trophies lining the shelves. The acceptance letter from UCLA was prominently displayed on his desk. Max stood silently, memorizing his son's features. In Brooklyn's room, his daughter was still awake, scrolling through her phone. She acknowledged him with barely a glance. For months, Max said quietly. Whatever, Brooklyn replied, not looking up. I've left emergency contact protocols with your mother. You always do. Max hesitated, then placed a small metal object on her nightstand. Brooklyn finally looked up. What's that? A satellite beacon. Military grade. If you're ever in real trouble, twist the top and pull. I'll find you anywhere in the world within 8 hours. Brooklyn's hard expression softened slightly. Is that even legal for civilians? The corner of Max's mouth twitched. No. For a moment, father and daughter shared a conspiratorial look. Then Brooklyn's gaze returned to her phone. Safe travels, I guess. Max nodded and left. In the hallway, he paused, listening to the quiet house he purchased 10 years ago. A beautiful colonial on 2 acres in Manling, Virginia. 4 bedrooms, a finished basement, a 2-car garage. The American dream, secured with hard-earned money from operations nobody would ever know about. As he descended the stairs, His phone vibrated. A notification from one of his security protocols. Adrian's phone had just sent a text. He leaves tomorrow. For months this time. The recipient's name was simply B. Max's expression didn't change as he turned off the notification. He had time. He would handle it when he returned. He always did. Bryant Powell believed in seizing opportunities. At 45, he built a reputation in Northern Virginia real estate by recognizing patterns others missed. The housing market crash of 2008 had been his first major windfall, buying distressed properties at pennies on the dollar. His second came from developing luxury condos for the intelligence community that flooded the D.C. suburbs. His latest opportunity had walked into his office 9 months ago, wearing tennis whites and a wedding ring. Adrienne Winters. Another headache? Adrienne asked, pressing her fingertips against Bryant's temples as they lay in her bed, the bed she shared with her absent husband. Just thinking about the Henderson property, Bryant lied smoothly. In reality, he was calculating the net worth of Maxwell Winters based on property records, investment patterns, and the snippets of information Adrienne had revealed over their 8-month affair. The man was worth millions, most of it hidden in offshore accounts and shell companies. A CIA operative living well beyond his government salary, with a wife who had no idea of the full extent of their wealth. Bryant's hunger was more than just for money. The secrets fueled him. Adrienne, tangled beside him in silk sheets, represented both a trophy and a puzzle to be solved. It was the perfect opportunity. I spoke with Noah again about the plan, Adrienne said, tracing patterns on Bryant's chest. He's still hesitant, but Brooklyn's completely on board. Bryant smiled. They're smart kids. They understand their father checked out of this family years ago. Maxwell never checked out, Adrienne corrected. He was never checked in. The house, the lifestyle, the college funds, they were all just a cover for whatever he really does overseas. Bryant had spent months cultivating this relationship, shifting from sympathetic real estate agent to friend to lover. He'd started by showing Adrienne properties just for fun, then suggesting investments, then emphasizing how she deserved better than a ghost husband who disappeared for months at a time. The children had been trickier. Noah, the high school senior, remained suspicious and loyal to his father. Brooklyn, however, had embraced Bryant as the attentive father figure she'd never had. "You sure about the power of attorney?" Bryant asked casually. "It's ironclad. When Max is deployed on classified missions, I have full legal authority to manage our assets." It was his idea, in case something happened to him overseas. Bryant nodded. Maxwell's contingency planning would be his undoing, along with the offshore accounts. Adrienne's expression clouded. "I still can't access those. Max keeps them compartmentalized." "No matter," Bryant assured her, brushing a strand of her hair from her cheek. "The house and domestic investments are more than enough to start our new life." Over the next month, after Maxwell's deployment, Bryant methodically executed his plan. First, a series of property transfers, moving the Winters assets into new LLCs controlled by Adrienne. Then came the accelerated sale of their main home to a straw buyer. Finally, a careful draining of the accessible accounts. Noah remained resistant, refusing to move out of the house until his graduation. "This is nonsense," Noah had shouted during their final confrontation. "Dad trusted you to watch over things, not sell everything and run off with your boyfriend." "Your father hasn't been here for you or me for years," Adrienne retorted. "Bryant is offering us a fresh start." "A fresh start? He's a vulture circling what Dad built." Brooklyn, enticed by promises of freedom from her strict father and a new life in California, had sided with her mother. "Dad's never around anyway. What difference does it make if we're gone when he gets back?" The difference, as Bryant well knew but never said aloud, was about $7 million in assets. 2 months into Maxwell's deployment, the Winters family home was sold, their domestic accounts emptied, and Adrienne Winters had filed for divorce on grounds of abandonment. Bryant and Adrienne purchased a beachfront property in Newport Beach under a new LLC and Brooklyn was enrolled in an exclusive private school for her sophomore year. Only Noah rejected the plan, choosing to stay with his father's friend, Dennis, until graduation. The family's fracture was now complete, engineered with precision, and wrapped in the illusion of freedom. His parting words to his mother hung in the air like a prophecy. "You have no idea what Dad is capable of." None at all. Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Garcia had seen that look before. Sitting across from Maxwell Winters in a forward operating base in Syria, he recognized the 1,000-yard stare of a man whose mind was somewhere else entirely. But unlike most operators who got that look, the ones thinking about death or questioning their choices, Maxwell was different. His eyes weren't vacant. They were calculating. Surveillance package picked up another transmission, Garcia said, sliding a tablet across the makeshift desk. "Your assessment." Max glanced at the decrypted messages, his focus instantly returning. "It's a diversion. The real movement will be through the northern corridor." "That's not what Intel suggests." "Intel is looking at the obvious patterns," Max replied, tapping the screen. "I'm looking at what's not there." For 3 months, Max had led extraction operations in Syria with ruthless efficiency, but in the past 2 weeks, Garcia had noticed changes in his behavior. Longer hours on secure communications, more frequent checks of his personal devices, and a growing tension in his normally stoic demeanor. "Something's wrong at home," Garcia stated rather than asked. Max didn't answer immediately. "Nothing I can't handle." "Need emergency leave?" "I can arrange it." "No." Max's response was instant. "I need to finish this operation." Later that night, Garcia found Max alone in the communications tent, staring at his encrypted tablet. "How long have you known?" Garcia asked quietly. Max didn't look up. "About Adrienne." 8 months. "About their plan to take everything." 3 months. "Jesus, Max, why didn't you stop it before deployment?" "Because I needed proof. I needed to see how far they'd go." Max finally looked up, his eyes cold. "And I needed to be officially deployed and unreachable when they made their move." Garcia understood immediately. "You're setting up an alibi." "I'm establishing a record that I was 7,000 miles away with 24 witnesses when certain events occurred." "What are you planning, Max?" "Justice," Max replied simply. "Nothing more, nothing less." Garcia had known Maxwell Winters for 15 years, through 3 wars and countless black operations. He'd seen him walk into dangerous strongholds alone and emerge unscathed. He'd watched him break hardened enemy combatants without raising his voice or laying a finger on them. Maxwell Winters didn't get angry. He got methodical. "The house is gone," Max continued, scrolling through property records. "Sold 2 weeks ago to a shell corporation. The main accounts are empty. Adrienne has filed for divorce, claiming abandonment. And the children." A flicker of something, perhaps pain, crossed Max's features. "Brooklyn's with them. Noah stayed behind." Garcia nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "In exactly 4 weeks, I'll need you to accompany me to a court hearing with a sealed file." Garcia met Max's gaze squarely. "Just say the word. I'm with you. You'll need to testify that it's authentic and classified." "What's in the file?" Garcia asked. Max finally looked up, his expression giving nothing away. "Insurance." The next morning, Max received a highly encrypted message from Dennis Chalk. "Situation deteriorating. Noah being pressured to sign documents. Adrienne's boyfriend moved into Newport property. Legal team attempting to freeze remaining accounts. Need instructions." Max sent a single reply. "Maintain position. Countermeasures active. 28 days." Garcia watched as Max returned to mission planning with renewed focus. That night, Garcia contacted his superior at the Pentagon with an unusual request: a background investigation into Bryant Powell, real estate developer in Northern Virginia. The response came 12 hours later. Subject has pattern of targeting high-value divorces. 3 previous instances identified. Financial fraud likely. FBI notified. Garcia showed the report to Max, who merely nodded. It's already in the file. Max, Garcia said carefully, whatever you're planning is already in motion. Max finished for him. Has been for months. Garcia had seen enough combat to recognize when a trap was being set, and for the first time in his military career, he felt sorry for the enemy. The young couple who answered the door of his former home looked genuinely shocked. Can we help you? The husband asked, standing protectively in front of his pregnant wife. Maxwell Winters, still in his combat boots and deployment fatigues, studied them carefully. This is my house, 4287 Oak Ridge Lane. The couple exchanged nervous glances. We purchased this house 3 months ago, the wife explained, from a woman named Adrienne Winters. Max's expression remained neutral. May I ask who handled the sale? Bryant Powell Realty, the husband replied. Look, we have all the paperwork if there's some kind of. No need, Max interrupted gently. A misunderstanding. I apologize for disturbing you. As Max turned to leave, the husband called after him. If you're Mr. Winters, your wife said you weren't coming back, that you were deployed indefinitely. Max paused but didn't turn around. I always come back. 3 hours later, Max sat in Dennis Chalk's living room, reviewing the documentation his friend had compiled during his absence. They moved fast, Dennis said, pouring 2 glasses of bourbon. Within weeks of your deployment, Bryant Powell had integrated himself into every aspect of your family's finances. The house, the investment accounts, everything he could access through Adrienne's power of attorney. And Noah? Max asked. The kid's been staying in my guest room. Refused to go to California with them. He's at lacrosse practice now. He'll be shocked you're back early. Max nodded, scanning property records. The Newport Beach house, purchased for $4.3 million. Cash transaction. Your cash, Dennis corrected. Adrienne liquidated your domestic investments. She couldn't touch the offshore accounts. Obviously. Obviously, Dennis echoed, handing Max a folder thick with legal notices and transaction records. The stakes had never been higher, but so had Maxwell Winters' resolve. Max continued reviewing documents with mechanical precision. The divorce filing claims abandonment and irreconcilable differences. Court date is set for next week. Dennis watched his friend carefully. Most men would be falling apart right now. Dennis, most men aren't me. Even for you, this is cold. Your wife cleaned you out, moved across the country with your daughter and her partner, and you're acting like you're reviewing intelligence reports. Max finally looked up. Because that's exactly what I'm doing. Before Dennis could respond, the front door opened and Noah Winters stepped in, still in his lacrosse uniform. He froze when he saw his father. Dad. For the first time since his return, something cracked in Max's composed demeanor. He stood slowly, facing his son, taller than him now, with the same strong jaw and watchful eyes. You're early, Noah said. Your deployment concluded ahead of schedule. Noah dropped his sports bag and crossed the room in 3 strides, wrapping his father in a fierce hug. Max stiffened momentarily before returning the embrace. I didn't sign anything, Noah said fiercely. They tried to get me to sign papers for the trust fund, but I refused. Max nodded approvingly. Smart move. Brooklyn went with them, Noah continued, pulling back. I tried to convince her to stay, but she made her choice. Max finished for him. We all make choices, son, and we all face consequences for those choices. Dennis cleared his throat. Noah, your dad's had a long journey. Why don't you grab a shower while we finish up here? After Noah left, Dennis leaned forward. What's your next move? Court, Max replied simply. I need to make an appearance. You know Adrienne's lawyer will eat you alive. They've built a case that you abandoned the family, that your deployments constitute willful neglect. They're painting you as an absentee father who cares more about playing spy than raising his children. Max's expression didn't change. Let them. This isn't some criminal cell you can outmaneuver, Max. This is the legal system. Powell has connections with judges throughout Northern Virginia. He's done this before to other deployed servicemen. I'm aware. Max gathered the documents into a precise stack. I need you to contact Lieutenant Colonel Garcia at this secure number. Tell him Operation Homecoming is in effect and to bring the file. Dennis looked confused. What file? The one that's going to end this. Max stood. Where is Brooklyn's beacon? Her what? A small metal device I gave her before deployment. Military-grade emergency beacon. Dennis shook his head. If she took it with her, it's in California. What insurance? Dennis asked. Max replied cryptically. He pulled out his phone and checked a tracking application. A small dot pulsed on the map over Newport Beach. Good girl. The next morning, Max stood in front of his bathroom mirror in Dennis's house, methodically shaving. Noah entered without knocking. What's the plan, Dad? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. Max met his son's gaze in the mirror, determination hardening his features. The plan is to go to court and tell the truth, and to make sure justice prevails. We're not just going to let them steal everything, right? Noah asked, tension clear in his voice. Max rinsed his razor. We're not. Brooke keeps texting me, says they're moving the hearing up, that Powell has the judge in his pocket, that it's a done deal. Noah's voice cracked slightly. Says you should just sign the settlement and move on. Max dried his face and turned to his son. Do you trust me, Noah? Yes. Then remember this. In war, the side that appears to be winning is often the side walking into a trap. Is that what this is? War? Max's eyes hardened. They made it one. Later that day, Max visited a safety deposit box at a nondescript bank in Arlington. Inside was a weathered, sealed military file folder with "Top Secret" stamped across its cover. He tucked it under his arm and made a phone call. The hearing's been moved up to tomorrow, he told Garcia. I need you there at 900. With the file. Judge Vernon Royce had presided over family court for 22 years. He'd seen every type of divorce imaginable. Amicable partings, vicious battles, tearful reconciliations. But something about the Winters case made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The courtroom was sparsely populated when Maxwell Winters entered precisely at 8:55 a.m. Dressed in an impeccable charcoal suit, he was accompanied by a military officer in full-dress uniform and a civilian who took seats directly behind him. No attorney. At the opposing table sat Adrienne Winters, blonde hair perfectly styled in a conservative blue dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. Beside her was Bryant Powell, a tan, silver-haired man with the artificial smile of a career salesman. Behind them sat a teenage girl, eyes fixed on her phone. Brooklyn, Judge Royce presumed from the case file. The Winters' high-powered attorney, Patricia Holbrook, was already sorting documents when Judge Royce called the court to order. Case number 2023 FC 1458, Winters versus Winters, the clerk announced. I understand the respondent is representing himself, Judge Royce asked, eyeing Maxwell dubiously. That is correct, Your Honor, Max replied calmly. And you're aware, Mr. Winters, that your wife is seeking dissolution of marriage on grounds of abandonment with a proposed settlement already filed. I am. Patricia Holbrook stood. Your Honor, given Mr. Winters' choice to proceed without counsel and the comprehensive settlement agreement already prepared, we request summary judgment. Mrs. Judge Royce held up a hand, signaling her to pause, his piercing gaze flickering between Max and the impeccably composed team across the aisle. Winters is simply asking for an equitable division of assets accumulated during a marriage that Mr. Winters effectively abandoned through his repeated, extended absences, Holbrook declared. Judge Royce noticed Maxwell's complete lack of reaction. Most self-represented litigants would be objecting already. Mr. Winters, do you wish to contest the abandonment claim or the proposed settlement? I do, Your Honor. On what grounds? Max stood, his voice steady. Fraud, conspiracy, and illegal conversion of assets. Holbrook scoffed, a tight, dismissive laugh escaping her lips as she looked to the judge for support. Your Honor, I move to strike. Mr. Winters offers no evidence beyond speculation and is attempting to deflect from clear legal precedent regarding deployment and abandonment. Your Honor, these are serious and completely unfounded allegations. Do you have evidence to support these claims, Mr. Winters? The judge asked. I do. Max turned slightly. With the court's permission, I'd like to call Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Garcia as a witness. Judge Royce frowned. This is highly irregular for a divorce proceeding, Mr. Winters. So is selling your deployed husband's house out from under him, Your Honor, Max replied evenly. The judge hesitated, then nodded. I'll allow it, but this better be relevant. Colonel Garcia took the stand and was sworn in. Colonel Garcia, what is your relationship to me? Max asked. I was your commanding officer during your recent deployment to classified locations in Southwest Asia. And on what dates was I deployed? From January 15th to May 12th of this year. You were under my direct command and physically present in combat theaters outside the United States for that entire period. During this deployment, did I have regular access to civilian communications or the ability to manage my domestic affairs? No. Your mission parameters restricted communications to military channels only, with extremely limited exceptions for family emergencies. Max nodded. Thank you, Colonel. I'd like to introduce into evidence a sealed military file that Colonel Garcia has brought with him today. Holbrook jumped to her feet. Objection, Your Honor. We have no idea what's in this alleged military file, nor has it been disclosed during discovery. It was impossible to disclose during discovery, Counselor, Max replied calmly, as I was deployed in a combat zone without access to civilian legal proceedings. Judge Royce frowned. I'll review the file before determining its admissibility. Colonel Garcia approached the bench with a weathered folder bearing multiple security classification markings. Judge Royce opened it and began reading, his expression gradually shifting from skepticism to shock. After several minutes, he looked up, his face ashen. Counsel and parties to my chambers, immediately. He turned to the bailiff. Clear the courtroom of all other persons. As the spectators filed out, Adrienne leaned toward her attorney, whispering urgently. Bryant Powell maintained his confident smile, though it had noticeably tightened. In the judge's chambers, Maxwell stood quietly as Judge Royce placed the file on his desk. Mrs. Winters, Mr. Powell, are you aware of the contents of this file? The judge asked sharply. Adrienne looked confused. No, Your Honor. Miss Holbrook, I'm going to ask you something very important, Judge Royce continued. Were you aware of Mr. Powell's previous involvement in similar situations with deployed service members? Judge Royce asked firmly. The attorney looked genuinely surprised. I know, Your Honor. Judge Royce turned to Maxwell. Mr. Winters, am I correct in understanding that you wish to pursue criminal charges separately from the divorce proceedings? That is correct, Your Honor. The color drained from Bryant Powell's face. For the first time, his polished composure faltered, a bead of sweat forming at his temple as the implications of the classified evidence became clear. Judge Royce fixed Adrienne with a serious look. Mrs. Winters, based on the information provided and the security concerns associated with these documents, I am issuing an immediate injunction on all asset transfers. All accounts and properties listed in this file will be frozen pending a full criminal investigation. Holbrook tried to interject, but the judge raised a hand. This is not a matter for family court alone. The documentation suggests a pattern of fraud and conspiracy that extends beyond this divorce. I will be forwarding the file to both state and federal authorities. Adrienne stared at Max, her eyes wide with shock. Powell remained silent, unable to muster a response as the reality closed in around him. In the meantime, Judge Royce continued, the court will appoint a special master to oversee all Winters family assets. Neither party is to make any financial or legal moves until the investigation is complete. This hearing is adjourned." Maxwell nodded, calm and resolute as ever. Brooklyn looked up from her phone at last, her expression uncertain as all the carefully spun plans of the last months unraveled before her eyes. "Criminal charges. This is absurd. What exactly am I being accused of?" Powell demanded, desperation edging his voice. Max finally turned to look directly at the man who had stolen his wife, his home, and his daughter. "Fraud, conspiracy, wire fraud, identity theft, and violation of the Service Members' Civil Relief Act, to start." "This is preposterous," Powell sputtered. Adrienne had power of attorney, which does not cover knowingly conspiring to defraud a deployed service member, Max interrupted coldly. Judge Royce raised his hand, silencing both men. "Mr. Powell, you will have the opportunity to address these accusations in a court of law. At this moment, the evidence presented is more than sufficient to justify a comprehensive criminal investigation. You, Mrs. Winters, and any other involved parties are ordered not to leave this jurisdiction until this matter is reviewed by authorities." Adrienne's face, once composed, had lost all color. She reached for Bryant's hand, but he seemed frozen, the air of confidence finally replaced by fear. Judge Royce leaned forward, his voice grave. "Given the gravity of the allegations, administrative oversight is now over all legal, financial, and custodial decisions involving the Winters family. This hearing is suspended until further notice." Max nodded, victory tempered by the cold realities of what had unfolded. As the judge escorted everyone from his chambers, the silent understanding between Maxwell and his now fractured family lingered in the heavy air. Winters has provided evidence suggesting a pattern of targeting military families during deployments. Adrienne turned to Bryant in horror. "What is he talking about?" For the first time, Max addressed his wife directly. "He's done this before, Adrienne. 3 times. Different states, different names. Sometimes the FBI has been building a case for years." "That's a lie," Powell shouted, his voice wavering. "Adrienne, don't listen to him." The file contains sworn affidavits from 3 previous victims, Judge Royce stated flatly, along with banking records showing transfers following identical patterns to those in the Winters case. Adrienne's composure cracked. "Bryant, what have you done?" "Nothing that wasn't completely legal," Bryant insisted desperately. "Everything was done with your authorization, with your signature." "Under false pretenses," Max corrected calmly, "while I was deployed, which triggers federal protections under the Service Members' Civil Relief Act." Judge Royce cleared his throat. "In light of this evidence, I am freezing all assets currently held by Mrs. Winters and Mr. Powell pending further investigation and federal review. Both of you are subject to immediate financial scrutiny and may not dispose of, transfer, or otherwise access accounts or properties relevant to this court until these matters are resolved. Powell pending further investigation. The divorce proceedings are stayed until the criminal matters are resolved." "You can't do that," Bryant protested desperately. "I just did," Judge Royce replied, unyielding. He turned to his clerk. "Please contact the U.S. Marshal Service and get the FBI liaison on the phone." As reality crashed down around them, Adrienne's voice shook. "Max, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about his history." Max's expression remained unchanged, his eyes cold and clear. "But you knew you were selling our house. You knew you were emptying our accounts. You knew you were filing fraudulent abandonment claims while I was deployed in a combat zone." For the first time, tears welled in Adrienne's eyes. "You were never home. You were never part of this family." "I built this family," Max replied, his voice deadly quiet. "I protected this family. I provided for this family. And you sold it all out from under me for a con man with a tan and a Rolex." Judge Royce cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Mr. Winters, what do you wish to do about your daughter?" "She's a minor, still under your legal guardianship." Max glanced toward the door, thinking of Brooklyn waiting outside. "She made her choice, Your Honor," She'll have to live with the consequences, just like her mother. As they exited the chambers, 2 U.S. Marshals were already waiting to escort Bryant Powell from the building. Adrienne stood frozen, watching as her carefully constructed new life collapsed in real time, the gravity of every decision crashing down upon her. Brooklyn finally looked up from her phone, her expression shifting from boredom to confusion to alarm. "Mom, what's happening?" Before Adrienne could answer, Max approached his daughter. "They lied to you, Brooklyn. They stole everything and told you it was legal. Now they're facing the consequences." Brooklyn's eyes widened. "But you were gone. You were always gone. And yet somehow I saw everything." Max replied, his voice softening slightly. "The beacon I gave you wasn't just for emergencies. It was a monitoring device. Every conversation in its vicinity was recorded and transmitted to my secure server." Brooklyn's face drained of color. "You spied on me." "I protected my assets," Max corrected. "Including you, whether you wanted that protection or not." As Bryant was led away in handcuffs, the reality of their situation finally hit Adrienne. "Max, please. Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do?" Max looked at his wife of 20 years with cold detachment. "Not my problem anymore." The safe house in Arlington was sparse but functional. Noah paced the living room while Max sat calmly reviewing documents from the file. "So that's it," Noah demanded. "Powell goes to jail. Mom and Brooke are left with nothing. And we just move on." Max looked up from his papers. "Justice isn't always satisfying, son. This isn't justice. This is, I don't know what this is." "It's consequences," Max replied simply. "Actions have consequences." Noah collapsed onto the couch across from his father. "I get it. What they did was wrong. But cutting Mom and Brooke off completely, they're still family. Family doesn't betray family." Max's voice carried a finality that allowed no argument. Family also doesn't conspire to destroy each other. A knock at the door interrupted them. Dennis Koch entered, followed by Colonel Garcia. "The FBI has expanded the investigation," Dennis reported. "They've identified 2 more victims of Powell's scheme. All military, all deployed when it happened." Max nodded. "As expected." Garcia handed Max a tablet. "The Newport Beach property has been seized as evidence. Adrienne and Brooklyn have been temporarily relocated to a hotel." "Has she contacted Noah?" Max asked. "Repeatedly," Noah interjected. "I haven't answered." Max nodded approvingly. "Good. There's something else," Garcia said hesitantly. "Powell is offering to cooperate with federal prosecutors in exchange for leniency." Max's expression didn't change. "Against whom?" "Adrienne. He claims she was the mastermind, that she sought him out specifically because of his reputation for helping military spouses escape their marriages." Noah jumped to his feet. "That's... Mom wouldn't." "Yes, she would," Max interrupted quietly. "And she did." The room fell silent. Max opened a secure laptop and turned it toward the others. On screen was an email from Adrienne to Bryant Powell dated 3 months before Max's deployment. "Mr. Powell, my husband will be leaving soon. I want this over before he comes back. We need to discuss how to move the money without him knowing. Powell, after our discussion at the charity gala, I've given considerable thought to your suggestion. My husband is scheduled for deployment in January. I believe that will be the safest window to begin the process. Please advise on next steps and any paperwork I should prepare. I appreciate your discretion." Max let the silence settle as Noah read the email. The implication was undeniable. Noah's hands clenched on the arm of the couch, his jaw tight with disbelief and sorrow. "She planned it," Max said quietly. "From the very beginning, she orchestrated everything, choosing the timing, the person, the method. She didn't just betray me. She betrayed all of us." Noah sat back, the weight of the truth settling over him. Dennis and Colonel Garcia exchanged uncertain glances, the air heavy with the grim reality of what they'd uncovered. Max closed the laptop and met his son's eyes. "I know it hurts, son. But sometimes, the people we trust the most are the ones who let us down the hardest." Noah nodded slowly, his anger giving way to a resigned sadness. "What happens now?" Max placed a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "Now, we rebuild. And we do it without them." "Yes," Max replied quietly. Brooklyn swallowed, wiping at her tears. "I thought you didn't trust me. I trusted you to be my daughter," Max said gently. "But in my world, trust and vigilance aren't the same thing. I needed to know you were safe, even when you didn't want my protection." She looked away, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "Does it ever stop hurting? The lies, the betrayals?" Max leaned forward, his voice soft but unwavering. "No. But we learn from it. We move forward, stronger and smarter for each other." Noah sat down beside Brooklyn, putting an arm around her. "We're still family. We have each other." A quiet strength settled in the room as the three Winters, father, son, and daughter, began, in their own broken ways, to stitch together what was left of their family. Outside, dusk deepened over Newport Beach, a reminder that even after the harshest storms, the sun would rise again. The fight wasn't over, but together, the Winters would face whatever came next. Brooklyn closed her eyes, concentrating. "I remember Mom mentioning a trust, something with coral in the name. She said it was through an international broker, and she joked once about how even the IRS would get lost trying to track it." Max quickly pulled up a search for offshore property trusts and companies in Placentia. "Coral Group Holdings Limited," he read aloud. "It's registered to a shell company out of Belize City and holds 5 residential titles on the peninsula." "That's it," Brooklyn exclaimed, her voice trembling. Garcia leaned in, assessing the data. "We can alert local authorities, but with Adrian's resources, she might disappear by the time they organize a response." "She won't expect us to move this quickly," Max said. His tone grew urgent. "Dennis, get me a secure flight to Belize. Garcia, coordinate with the U.S. Embassy and Interpol. Brooklyn, gather anything Mom ever gave you. Emails, photos, receipts. Anything that can tie her to these properties." Noah nodded, already starting to pack. "We're going with you, right?" Max hesitated only a moment before answering. "This time, we stay together. No more secrets." Brooklyn looked at her father, gratitude and regret mingling in her expression. For the first time, she seemed truly ready to accept the help she'd once resented. Max reviewed their plan, determined. "We get her before she disappears for good. And no matter what, we do this as a family." The Winters moved as one, united at last by the truth, setting out for a confrontation none of them could have imagined just months before. The hunt was on, and this time, Max wasn't leaving anything or anyone behind. "She'll run if she sees you coming. But she trusts me. I can get in the house, get her talking, maybe distract her long enough for you to do what you have to do," Brooklyn said, her voice trembling but resolute. Max hesitated, torn between the instinct to protect his daughter and the undeniable logic in her suggestion. He searched Brooklyn's eyes, seeing a mixture of determination and desperation. "You realize how dangerous this is?" Brooklyn nodded. "I do. But I need to face her. I need answers." Garcia interjected. "If we're doing this at all, we need backup. I know a local contact, a retired special branch officer. He's discreet. He can provide eyes on the ground without alerting anyone." Max considered it for a moment, then nodded. "Set it up. Dennis, you and Noah remain at the hotel as backup with comms open at all times." Dennis looked worried but determined. "If anything goes wrong." "It won't," Max said, though they all knew it was more resolve than certainty. Brooklyn looked at her father, waiting for final approval. Max gave a brief nod. "We'll do it together," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "But Brooklyn, if at any moment you feel unsafe, you walk away. That's not a request. That's an order. She managed a small, brittle smile. Yes, Dad. The plan was set. Before dawn, Max and Brooklyn would be en route to Villa 23, Pelican Rise, a father and daughter, risking everything to finally bring the haunting chapter of their family's betrayal to an end. You're safe now, Adrienne murmured, holding Brooklyn close. You're with me. Brooklyn allowed herself to be comforted, her mind racing. She had to keep Adrienne talking, keep her off guard. I can't believe Dad did this to us. He's so cold, so calculating. I thought he cared about us. Adrienne led her to the living room, gesturing for her to sit. He's always been like that. He never loved us the way we deserved. He was always more in love with his work than with his family. Brooklyn nodded, playing along. I thought I could make him see reason, but he's so stubborn. He's never going to forgive us, is he? Adrienne's expression darkened. He doesn't deserve our forgiveness. He deserves to suffer for what he's done to us. Brooklyn's heart pounded in her chest as she heard Max's voice in her ear. Stay calm. Keep her talking. Mom, I need to use the restroom, Brooklyn said, standing up. I've been on the plane for hours, and I'm dying for a drink of water. Of course, sweetheart, Adrienne replied, pointing down the hallway. It's the second door on the left. There's a glass of water in the fridge if you want it. Brooklyn walked down the hallway, her steps measured and calm. She pushed open the bathroom door and quickly locked it behind her. Taking a deep breath, she pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to Max. I'm in. She's alone. She flushed the toilet for effect and turned on the faucet, letting the water run for a few seconds before turning it off. She splashed some water on her face, trying to steady her nerves. Then she unlocked the rear patio door, just as Max had instructed. As she walked back down the hallway, she heard Adrienne's voice. Brooklyn, are you okay in there? Yeah, Mom, she called out, her voice steady. I'm fine. Just needed a moment to myself. She re-entered the living room, her eyes scanning the room for any signs of documents or valuables. She spotted a briefcase on the coffee table and casually picked it up. What's this? Adrienne's eyes widened for a moment before she regained her composure. Just some paperwork. Nothing important. Brooklyn opened the briefcase, her heart racing. Inside were stacks of cash and a passport in the name of Angela Walsh. She quickly closed it, her mind racing. Mom, I think I need to lie down for a bit. I'm still jet-lagged. Of course, sweetheart, Adrienne replied, leading her to the guest bedroom. You rest. I'll make us some dinner. As soon as the door closed behind her, Brooklyn sent another text to Max. I found the briefcase. It's in the living room. I'm in the guest bedroom. She lay down on the bed, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear Max's voice in her ear. Good job, Brooklyn. Stay calm. I'm on my way. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. She had to keep Adrienne talking, keep her off guard. She had to finish this. Brooklyn kept her gaze steady, her voice barely above a whisper. I know. I never expected him to. Adrienne seemed satisfied by this, taking a deep sip of wine before wandering to the window, looking out into the darkness over the water. You have no idea how hard it's been. Always playing second to his career, his secrets. I just wanted a real life for us. For me and for you. Brooklyn watched her mother's silhouette, torn between sadness and anger. She quietly moved closer, careful not to betray any sign of nerves. I understand, Mom. I want a fresh start too. Then it's us now, Brooklyn, Adrienne said, her voice thick with conviction. Only us. Promise me you'll never turn away. Brooklyn hesitated for just a second, then nodded. I promise. Silence fell over the villa, broken only by the soft, rhythmic crash of surf beyond the glass. Brooklyn could hear her father's voice through the tiny earpiece, calm and reassuring as he relayed coded instructions. She glanced at the clock. 20 minutes to complete everything, or Adrienne's suspicion might boil over. Do you want to help me pack some things for the new house? Adrienne asked. "Of course," Brooklyn replied, her hand steady even as her heart pounded in her chest. As they gathered Adrienne's most valuable possessions and packed a small case, Brooklyn kept careful mental notes, knowing every detail she committed to memory would help Max and the authorities finish what had begun so many long and painful months ago. The next move was up to Max, and this time the Winters family would see justice done, no matter where it led them. "I'm protecting her from you," Adrienne shot back, her hand trembling just enough for everyone in the room to notice. Max took a step closer, his voice low but firm. "You're not protecting anyone, Adrienne. You're running from consequences, from responsibility, from everything you did. Stay back," she warned, the gun unsteady as she aimed it at Max and then back at Brooklyn. Brooklyn pressed herself against the wall, tears pooling in her eyes, but her voice was steady. "Mom, please, just stop. We can fix this. It's not too late." "It's too late the moment your father showed up on this continent," Adrienne hissed. "Don't act like you don't know whose side you're on." In the hallway beyond, the faint sound of an emergency backup generator kicking in made Adrienne whirl toward the door. The moment her attention shifted, Max surged forward with a speed and precision honed by years of training. In one swift, practiced move, he disarmed Adrienne, sending the gun tumbling across the marble floor. Adrienne stumbled backward, her bravado crumbling as she realized her escape plans were finished. Brooklyn rushed to Max's side, relief and fear mingling in her expression as Max handed her gently out of the room. Adrienne slumped to the floor, eyes wide, breath ragged. "You think you've won," she rasped, staring up at Max. "You haven't. You can't erase what you are, or what you've turned us into." Max looked down at her, sorrow and determination mingling in his eyes. "I'm not trying to erase anything, Adrienne. I'm trying to end it. For all of us." Police lights flashed outside the villa, casting red and blue across the walls as local authorities arrived, summoned by Max's silent alarm and Brooklyn's actions. As the officers entered, Max stepped back, allowing them to take Adrienne into custody. Brooklyn clung to her father, sobbing softly. Max held her close, his protective embrace finally free of secrets, the storm that had threatened to destroy what remained of their family finally breaking. With Adrienne led away in handcuffs and the threat finally neutralized, the Winters family stood together, wounded but unbroken, ready at last to rebuild. Adrienne had been sentenced to 10 years in a federal prison, with the possibility of parole after 5. The offshore accounts had been seized, and the properties sold to cover restitution. Brooklyn had testified against her mother, her words echoing the pain and betrayal that had defined their past year. Noah had stood by his sister, his loyalty unwavering. Max had ensured that both children received counseling, not just for the trauma they had endured, but also to help them navigate the complexities of their new reality. He had sold the house in McLean, the property in Newport Beach, and any other remnants of their old life. The money had been invested in a trust for Noah and Brooklyn, ensuring their financial security and independence. "Dad, can we invite some friends over for the weekend?" Brooklyn asked, stepping out onto the balcony. Her eyes sparkled with a newfound lightness, a stark contrast to the haunted look she had carried for so long. Max smiled at her, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Of course, just make sure to clear it with Noah first. He's been complaining about the lack of privacy." Noah rolled his eyes but grinned. "Only because I have to share a bathroom with her. She's a nightmare in the morning." Brooklyn laughed, shoving him playfully. "At least I'm not the one who hogs the shower." Dennis watched the interaction with a sense of relief and pride. "They're healing," he said softly. "They're really healing." Max nodded, taking a sip of his bourbon. "We all are. It's been a long road, but we're finally on the right path." Inside, the sound of laughter and the clinking of glasses filled the air. The Winters family had been through hell and back, but they had emerged stronger, more united, and ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. Together, they would rebuild, heal, and forge a new beginning, one that honored the past without being defined by it. Yes, Max replied honestly. Brooklyn sat in silence for a moment. Did it make you angry? Hearing me say those things, believing Mom over you? Max met his daughter's eyes, his voice gentle but unwavering. It hurt, but I understood. You were scared and confused. Your mother was clever. She told you what you needed to hear, and I was barely around to do otherwise. She looked down, twisting her hands in her lap. I thought I hated you, but in the end, I was just afraid I'd lost you forever. You never lost me, Brooklyn. Not for a second, Max said softly. And after everything you did to help, after everything you risked, you've proven just how strong you really are. Brooklyn wiped at her tears. Do you think we'll ever be normal again? Max almost smiled. I'm not sure we ever were, kiddo. But we're together. That's enough. There was a long, healing silence between them. Finally, Brooklyn stood and crossed the room, hugging her father tightly. Good night, Dad. Thank you for not giving up on me. Max held her close. Truly close, for the first time in years. Never, he whispered. Good night, Brooklyn. As she slipped away to her room, Max remained at his desk, the sting of the past softened by hope for the future. In the quiet house, peace finally seemed possible, the fragile but enduring peace of a family that had chosen, again and again, to hold on to each other. Good night, Dad. Good night, Brooklyn. After she left, Max returned to the files on his desk. With deliberate precision, he closed Adrienne's file and locked it in the bottom drawer. Some betrayals could never be forgiven. Some wounds never healed. Adrienne had made her choice, and now she would live with the consequences. But for Noah and Brooklyn, he left their files open on his desk. Their story was still being written, and this time he would be present for every chapter. He sat for a long moment in the quiet, letting the weight of the past finally settle in its place. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new beginnings, and the steady hope of healing. For the Winters family, the future, though uncertain, was finally theirs to shape together.